coming in a celebratory capacity to hear about your good performance in the grade 4 literacy test or your excellent performance on your various PEP exams, or to celebrate with you in some sporting victory, or to participate in your long service awards or something that is far more uplifting than to have to visit you on this very sad occasion. It is, one of the most distressing parts of my job, to come and speak with parents and teachers and loved ones of the victims of senseless crime, particularly the loss of life due to murder. But when it is the murder of children, it sinks us to a new low. And for this particular act to be committed in the way in which it was adds another dimension of an intention to create fear. It shows a depravity, a callousness, a barbarity that is a stain on our entire society. It is a stain on our entire consciousness, and it is an assault on our sensibilities. But aside from coming here to commiserate with you and to offer my condolences, I'm also here to give you reassurance that the government is taking all the measures that we can, all the steps that we can to ensure the safety of the school, children, and the surrounding community, particularly the community of Salisbury. You may be following the discourse in the public domain, and I'm sure that being first-hand and experiencing this kind of violence, your views would have consolidated around the government creating a system of deterrence through harsher measures in terms of the laws and the penalties and the various offences. Since the last 2 years, we have been using the legislative process to increase the penalties for various crimes. We have totally overhauled the Firearms Act, and we have increased the penalties for firearm possession and use, and we have also included new offences under the Firearms Act, including stockpiling and trading and trafficking and so forth, all in an attempt to bring this monster to heel. It is clear that our young men in particular have access to illegal and dangerous weapons. And it is as if these weapons creates a source of addiction. It empowers them. It makes them feel as if they are invincible. Some of them worship the gun, and they use it to create mayhem. We have to crack down on the illegal importation of the guns and the access to the guns. We also have to crack down on the glorification of guns within the community. We have already started to seek to increase the penalties for murder, and in particular capital murder. That in itself will not be sufficiently a deterrent. Someone who is committed to murder, who has passed the threshold of human kindness and civility, is not going to be necessarily deterred by a sentence. But the point of fact is that they must be separated from the community of good people. And in our system, the way to separate them is to give them long sentences and take them out of the space. Short of the death penalty, that's the next best thing. However, there is an ecosystem of crime which has to be tackled. Unfortunately, in some ways, we are all part of the ecosystem of crime. The truth is that someone must have known what is about to unfold. And as I stand here and speaking to you, someone knows where the criminal terrorist, the beast is. And you are equally as guilty for having this knowledge and not sharing it with the authorities. It is not going to bring back the children. Or the other gentleman who was in the car that was killed. But in our system, the people who commit the crime must be held accountable. Restoration and healing can only happen when you are able, through the justice system, to confront the perpetrator. So many families are indeed suffering because there is no closure. But giving succor and protection and being an accessory to the crime keeps the ecosystem of protection around the criminal. So we're going to be targeting the criminal, definitely. Tougher penalties for the possession of weapons, the means to commit the crime. Tougher penalties for committing the actual crime, with increasing the penalties in the Offences Against the Person Act, particularly for capital murder. But there is a common law principle in our jurisprudence. It's called misprision of a felony. Someone who knows that a crime has been committed, someone who has knowledge. It doesn't mean that they participate in the crime. It doesn't mean that they aided and abetted or gave any support or were a part of any common design to commit the crime. But they have come into knowledge, they know. They are under a duty, under our existing law, to come forward. Somebody in the community of Salt Spring knows. I don't know the details of the case. The police are in a better position to give you, but the briefing that I have had and what I believe I'm at liberty to say is that the person who was shot and killed in the front of the car appeared to have been the target. My understanding is that he was wanted by the police. But he obviously felt protected by this ecosystem of crime that no one would have said anything. He felt so protected that he could hide in open view, that he could take public transportation, that he could be up and down a public thoroughfare, because obviously no one is going to give a statement to the police. But somebody knew and did nothing. The result of that is that two innocent children were taken away. So yes, we're going to be focusing the harsher penalties on the actual criminal perpetrator, the beast, the terrorist. However, we must also seek to dismantle this ecosystem that supports them. Standing here right now, I'm very motivated. I'm very motivated because the deaths of those two children must not go in vain. And if the people of Salt Spring are really serious about bringing this matter to some form of closure, in their minds, in their conscience, I know it's a lot of pressure now and focus on the community. Because the community was doing well. Community was doing well. As I had pointed out, we wanted to put Salt Spring under a zone of special operations round about the same time that we were doing Mount Salem. Of course, resource constraint, we couldn't do both at once. But we had always targeted Salt Spring for that. But we decided that let us use another method. And I hear people saying, oh, well, you know, states of public emergency, they don't work. Let us use social intervention. The police can tell you, JSIF can tell you, where is he, Roy? The Member of Parliament can tell you the level of social intervention that we have put into this community. It is not for want of social intervention. I was very impressed at the results that the social intervention, particularly I got some reports of how the police worked at back to school to ensure that the children could go back to school, providing them with support, and at Christmas, and it seemed to have been working. The level of reports of serious crime fell. But it shows you that the potential still exists in these communities. They still have the guns, and they can use them at any time because they know nobody will talk. Well, the policy of the government is going to shift now. Well, not shift, expand. Because as I stand here, I have given a directive to all the security apparatus. They must find the perpetrator.
Yes, sir.
They must find him. So he thinks he's safe.
Yes, sir.
We are going to find him.
Yes, sir.
But we are also going to find the people who supported you, who knew, and bring you all to justice. We have a real problem, and as teachers every day you see it in your classroom. Violence has become an acceptable tool of social interaction. It's as if everything we do has some element of violence in it. We have become a violent society. And it's as if we don't even recognize it. We find all kinds of names to justify it. We say we are assertive. It has reached a point where I saw a video of a mother. I see that she has asked for forgiveness. She's in a fight. In other words, violence going on there. And the thought isn't to protect her child and to move away from violence. That's where it has reached in our society. And I'm sure you see it almost every day in your classroom, all over. You have to deal with this thing now directly. Now, violence didn't erupt overnight in our society. If you trace it, you would see the introduction, mainstreaming, and normalization of violence, starting with political violence. But as a society, we dealt with political violence. We put in place the Electoral Commission. We amended the Representation of the People Act. We did all kinds of things. Now we have elections, and we see people are opposing political views, hugging up and dancing in the street. We've dealt with it. In the same way, if we bring resources, institutions, laws, and the social conscience together, we can address this issue of violence. There has to be a process of training up our children to abhor violence. So that means the systems of discipline that we put in, both in the schools and in the homes, must not use or rely on violence to modify behavior. I know this is a touchy subject. Traditionally, we have relied on the rule and the strap and on the hand. That will have to stop. It must stop. There are many other well-proven ways of using reason to get children, even recalcitrant children, to modify behavior. You know, I know at this point you are also mourning and you are trying to come to terms with what has happened. And you need to be able to lead the process of coming to grips, coming to terms, because you have the children in your hands. And a part of that is to be assured that the leadership of the country understands what is happening. We have a plan in place. It might take some time so you understand the gap between saying what the plan is and actually getting the plan executed. That gap in time could lead to a lot of frustration, disenchantment, but once you are engaged, then you know how to posture and how to support the children. So by my saying directly what it is the government plans to do, you don't have to wait on the government to institute a policy of non-violence in schools. The principal could take it upon himself to say, look, certain behaviors will not be tolerated on the part of teachers, on the part of parents, on the part of students. Bring the school community together and say, this is a violence-free space.
We have over 1,000 students here, and this is one of the primary schools in St. James. We do not have any bad behavior system that we do not control. Our children are loved. They want to come to school. If you look at my attendance on a Monday, the same attendance rate on Friday. Good. So they come to school. They want to be at school. And that is why when they come here, in spite of all the community, yes, and where they are coming from, academically they do very, very well.
Excellent.
You would have known that recently we got 3 of the top government scholarship in the recent exams. So we are doing well, and the behavior of our children are good. Is the fact that when they go out into the wider community, that is where we suffer the problem. Because when I would speak to my fellow principal colleagues and look at the myriad of problems that they have in their schools, we don't have it here at Chetwood.
Not just Chetwood, but schools generally should now take this signal and start to put in place the model that Chetwood has. Because that's where it starts, and that's where the government has policy and directional control. We're also going to have to focus on families, because the important point you raised is that your school might be an oasis, yes, but right around it, when they leave here and go back home, that is where the problem is. So we're going to be engaging the people of Salisbury. My heart goes out to them. I know they have been captured, basically. They've been captured by criminal elements. That's essentially what has happened. But my view is that people always have what is called agency, the ability to change and take responsibility. And government's duty is to support them in that transformation of the situation. So I hope I delivered a message here that is reassuring, and a message that will give you some direction as to where we're going to go and what you can do in this process of coming to grips, helping our children to understand. And I certainly will keep my eyes on what is happening in the community. And I will look out for the high-performing Chetwood Primary. So hopefully by next time it will be in celebration of some significant award.